Oh, it's difficult to know when it started. I think I was so young that I don't remember. You know, there's a great story about Leonardo da Vinci, you know, being in his cot and his face being brushed by the tail of a hawk. I don't know how he remembers that, but I don't have any story like that. They were always something I was obsessed with. And in the book, you know, it's a very emotionally exposing book, but there's only one thing I wrote in it that I'm still embarrassed about, and that is that when I was so very small, I tried to sleep with my arms behind my back like wings because I wanted to be a hawk. I mean, that's still really embarrassing to me. So yeah, it was, my friends had pictures of rock stars on their walls. I had pictures of hawks, you know. It was a big childhood obsession, and I never really grew out of it. It's very strange talking about my father now because, you know, he's almost, I've talked about him with so many people because of this book that he's almost becoming a kind of character in my head too. He was a lovely man. He was a very quiet, very patient, very private man, and he was a photographer. Yeah, we were kind of geeks together. We'd go out, you know, on nature walks, collecting fossils and rocks and sort of feathers and nests and identifying birds, and it was, yeah, we had a really good relationship, you know, and you know, it was a horrible shock when he died. We didn't even know he was even slightly ill. And he was suddenly gone, and I think sudden death has a very strange effect on families. You know, we're very close. My mother and I and my brother and I are very close too. It just tears the world in half, and that was the shock I think that really set me on this weird course to get a hawk. I don't recommend a hawk as a way of coping with grief. Generally, it's very important. I say that it's a bit of a weird one. She was a huge distraction. I have a friend who says that when he's drunk, what he does is put his hand to his forehead like this, and presses it very tightly, so that all he can feel is his hand, and it stops him feeling like he's drunk. And Mabel was a bit like that hand, only I wasn't drunk, I was grieving. So, you know, she was in the house, I lived with her 24 hours a day, and when she was flying free, you know, I'd get up in the morning, we'd go out, I'd let her go, I'd watch her hunt and fly like a wild bird for hours every day. And it was astonishing. I mean, she really was a way of experiencing a kind of extraordinary wildness that mirrored the grief inside me, I think. Yeah, it was an amazing experience and a beautiful one, but pretty dark as well. I guess even towards the end of that year, when I was flying Mabel the hawk, I began to realize that there was a story to what had happened that was bigger than me. It was a bigger, older story. It almost felt like a kind of classical myth sometimes, like I'd taken a trip to the underworld and come back with this hawk by my side. And I guess I realized that it wasn't just about a miserable woman and a bird. And I thought, maybe I'm going to write this down one day. But it took 5 years. It took 5 years before I had enough distance from that time to have the emotional distance to actually start writing it. And I'm glad I did, because that enabled me to treat the person in the book as a character, and that gave me more freedom to make stylistic and formal choices about what I was doing, I think. And I'm not her anymore, thank goodness. You know, she was quite broken, and I like to think I'm not anymore. So that was interesting, I think, that sense of waiting.